Thanks. Thank you. Hello, everybody. So my name is Yashar, my first name. It's actually Turkish for someone who lives a long life. Let's hope for that. And then Moradbakhti is Farsi, is Persian, and it's two words. So Morad means desire in Farsi, and Bhakti means happiness. So it's desire for happiness. And I think when I was younger, it was more egoistic. I want to be happy myself. But I think as you kind of grow old, you kind of become more, you want to create happiness for people around you. And we're going to talk a bit about that later during this talk. So as mentioned, we talk about languages. And there's so much to talk about languages because it's such an important part of human life and our everyday life. When I was thinking about this talk, it kind of boiled down to three different stories. So you will hear three different separate stories that are kind of intertwined. And at the end, we'll create a new story together. So at some points it will be fun. At some points it might be a bit sad. So let's start this talk. So first of all, imagine not being to talk on a daily basis, not being able to communicate through language. For me, that would be like doing charades constantly, and it's extremely frustrating not to be able to say what you think or not to understand what the other person is saying. So language is super important in our everyday lives, and also it's super important for any type of communication that we have. So this is a graph of Facebook connectivity. This is a quite old image. I think it's even more connected. But all of these connections we have around the world, the requirement for us in order to socialize or communicate or make business or things like that is language, whether that's verbal or it's written. And human language is actually very unique in the animal kingdom. So we can talk about most things, right? The weather, the war, the past, the future. We can go into very elaborate mathematic algorithms, a bunch of gossip on the internet, how do you make your makeup, and so on. Animals, the most advanced, actually just make a few sounds that are connected to very immediate issues, such as, oh, I need food, or danger, or threat, or girl, or boy, I don't know. So it's very unique, the human language, compared to the animal kingdom. And in order to understand that uniqueness, we really need to go back, and this is the story of human evolution. Unfortunately, a lot of people are like that. So let's go through the story of human evolution and how that has affected the language and humans. So one of the important things that enables us to speak compared to the animals is that we have a bigger brain size. And size do matters in this case. And the fact that we have a larger brain enables us to process more than other animals and do things that are completely more advanced than they can do, language being one of those. But brain doesn't always matter compared to, so we are Homo sapiens, a human species that we were related to that are now extinct, Homo neanderthalis, they had bigger brains than we did. And there are theories around this, that why couldn't they talk as Homo sapiens did? And the theories say that probably they had a much bigger human mass, or body mass, so the brain was mostly used to control this huge amount of muscles and bones, while the smaller human brain was used to kind of be more social, create group dynamics, and solving problems together. So, and in that way, we could solve more harder problems than the Neanderthals that eventually went extinct. Also, there are anatomical differences. Like our bodies are different from other animals, and I mean all animals have throats, they have vocal cords, they have mouths and tongues, but ours are a bit different. We have longer necks, our tongues are much more flexible, and our mouths are a bit smaller. And these different anatomical differences enabled us to physically being able to speak, which animals can't really. And also recently found a gene, which they call the language gene. It doesn't really like enable language, but without it, we cannot really speak. So there are individuals that have a disorder where this gene doesn't work. They can't really speak. So there are genes that do affect our capacity to speak. And this gene actually exists in the animal kingdom as well, but it's different from the human version of it. All of these things need, it's a big difference from a monkey singing and Justin Bieber singing. And you all know you're believers. Stop pretending you're not. So there's different human species, right? So Homo sapiens are us. Then we had our ancestors that were Homo erectus. And then we had Homo neanderthalis that were not direct. They were like a sister species. So they were already across the world when the Homo sapiens started to exist. The Neanderthals were mainly in Europe and parts of Asia and Middle East, while Homo erectus actually were in Africa and made it to the Far East as well. So at some point, 100,000 years ago, we started to migrate from Africa. We're all Africans. And we went to the Middle East, and that area. Eventually, we made it to India and to Australia 50,000 years ago. And lastly, we made it to the Americas. Another group made it to Europe around 40,000 years ago. That's the Cro-Magnons that eventually did outcompete the Neanderthals that were there. And once again, probably due to us being much more social and much more collaborative compared to the Neanderthals. And there are actually the fact that we had to create tools back in the days. This might not seem that important today, but back in the days, if you had stone tools, you would survive. So, and there are research on this that shows that the fact that we use language to teach others how to create stone tools, we were more efficient to create stone tools than the Neanderthals who couldn't kind of talk about how to create stone tools. So language helped us survive because we shared information and made others to learn information much faster and being able to endure. So that was the back then story. Now the modern times. So I want to walk you through my family story and go a few generations back. So this is my mom's family. My mom is up to the left, and obviously my grandpa and my grandma and her siblings. So they're from Azerbaijan, which is it's former Soviet state, but now own country. So Azerbaijan was part of the old Persia, which is today's Iran. Back, 17. We lost it to Russia back in the around 19th century, 17th to 19th century, and it was part of the Russian Empire back in the days. When the Bolsheviks took over, 1917, the Azerbaijanis like, woohoo, let's get freedom again. So they kind of said, we're a new republic. That it took 2 years before the Soviets invaded them and said, you can't do that. At that point, my mother's family, they decided they still felt like being part of Iranians and they didn't like the communism back in the days. So they decided to move to Iran. And the fun part is my mom's granddad and them, they run a chocolate factory. And this is I kind of recently found out and explains why I like chocolate so much, I think. And they created chocolate differently than you created sweets in Iran. So this was kind of new. So eventually they went to Tehran and continued the business. At the same time, my dad's grandfather, he kind of owned most of the hammams in Tehran. So he was the big hammam owner. It's kind of like owning Centralbadet and Stureplansbadet and a bunch of hammams. A lot of fun stories about that, but that's another talk. And I kind of met my parents while young. So this is how the women looked like back in the days. I had tremendous fun looking at these images, actually. So that's my mom on the left image with my grandma, and that's my mom's friends. Really cool women back in the days. Still are, of course. And so they met quite young, my mom and dad. and they got me. This image I like because my dad looks like Borat on the image. So I kind of made fun of him. He was like, yes, Jack Shimash. So the Borat mustache is fantastic. So it was good times, right? I grew up in a family. The Azeris, they speak Turkish, so they are Turk-speaking people. So my mom's side were Turkish-speaking. That's a huge population in Iran. I think 20% of 80 million are Turkish-speaking, and it's a big part of Iranian culture. And a larger portion are the Fars, or the Persians who speak Farsi. So I grew up in a family who spoke both of the languages. Farsi is an Indo-European language, and that's one of the biggest language families in the world, or it is the biggest language family in the world. So 3 billion native speakers speaking any of the Indo-European languages. There are two big branches. There's one European, and then there's the Indo-Iranian branch. The Indo-Iranian branch, you have Farsi, you have Indic languages, and so on. While the European languages, I mean, obviously English is the big one, but you have you have German, you have Swedish, and so on. And they're all kind of connected. So it's kind of interesting for me, who knows Farsi. Sometimes you hear words, you're like, yeah, must come from Farsi. And words like balcony comes from the Farsi words bala, which means above, and khane, which means house, so the house above. Brother, we say baradar. Candy, qand, so candy crush, you kind of owe us. The khaki is khak, which means dirt or sand or whatever. Lemon is limun, mother is madar. So there are all of these connections between languages that are super interesting, I would say. So there were good times in Iran, a lot of big parties, big families, and I said very mixed with the Azeri culture and the Persian culture. And that's kind of Iran how it is. We have a lot of different nationalities. It's really fun, actually. But then the Iranian revolution hit us. And my parents were kind of civil rights activists or very much believers in democracy. And so they decided to migrate to Sweden. And one thing my dad said is, I'm like, why did you choose the coldest country in the world? It's not, but I'm kind of joking with him every February. And he's like, well, they had democracy, right? The best democracy in the world. And I totally agree with him. So we came to Mina Solens Rike. Great. And so we moved to Gärdet very quickly. That's like the first place we moved. And there was like me, one Polish guy, and one Greek guy. That was us. And the rest were Swedish. So, I mean, I probably thought I was this blonde Swedish guy for a long time. I was not. So, good times in Sweden. True story, I think we were the first immigrants ever walking Kungsleden, which is very, very north. And it's one of the hiking trails that are one of the most famous hiking trails in the world, actually. It's 400 kilometers a walk. My dad, with a Borat mustache, I must say, still, he's a big fan of mountain climbing and stuff like that. So we actually did more than 400 kilometers because he kind of went off the path, still blaming him for it. So good times in Sweden. And I made it to KDH. And here I started to meet Swedes from other parts of Sweden, not just Stockholm. And eventually I went to working for Spotify, EA, MTG. And here I also started meeting Swedes from northern part of Sweden and Swedes from southern part of Sweden. And what was really hilarious is all the accents. So here's when the audience interaction starts. So I'm going to test you guys in a few accents. Just shout out if you hear where these people are from. So we are looking for län. Vilket län de är ifrån? Do we have sound? Who's this?
Sen på somrarna fick vi plocka bär. Där var vi med mor i skogarna här runt omkring och plockade blåbär och plockade lingon. Och sen kom bilen och köpte upp att sen fram mot kvällen till.
Yes!
Det har ju man har förhängt med.
Alltså, I love this one. So another one.
Australien har alltid varit mitt favoritresmål. Så länge jag minns så har jag alltid pratat om att jag ska åka dit. Jag vet inte om det är naturen och djuren som gör det. Och sen ska jag då resa med rosa bussarna som har varit så populär nu på TV. Bara för det ansåg att det var det enda sättet för mig att komma iväg på min drömresa. För själv det skulle jag nog inte åka.
So, next one. I love these different accents from Sweden. So let's try.
Det är just det här med dialekter. Vi har haft lite undervisning i dialekter då. Så att det var ju som så kul då, tyckte jag, när vi har som hållit på med det. Det är så kul, för vi är ju från hela Sverige. Ja, vi är från Skåne och Jönköping och Karlstad. Ja, men det är från hela Sverige. Så vi har ofta såna här dispyter när vi...
men typ
ja, jag säger hejna, hojna och hejna och hejna.
Hejna, hojna, hejna. So my first job actually worked with a bunch of people from Norrland. It was fantastic. They're the calmest people I ever worked with, and I really loved it. So, any Iranians and Syrians here? Okay, so I apologize in advance for all the swearing words in this video. But this is Imana Svenska, which is also really bad, actually. But hey, it's language, right? Getting a bit more serious. So the story of today, my third story. So what's going on in the world right now? Sadly, there's big wars happening around the world, and there's a lot of misery happening. And this is the face of the misery. And we shouldn't dehumanize what's going on. There's real agony going on, which is important to kind of reflect upon. And if you look at specifically look at the Syrian war, these numbers are not right, as old infographics, but it kind of shows the flows of people where they're migrating, mostly to the countries nearby, but obviously coming to Europe as well. And what we're looking at is, the scale of it is just so huge. So we have 6.6 million people, this is the recent numbers from UN, are internally displaced within Syria, so refugees in their own countries. And there are 4.6 million that are refugees outside of Syria. That's almost like, more than the whole Swedish population moving from their apartments to somewhere else. So the scales are just enormous. And there have been a lot of different crises happening. Syria is the worst in modern time after the Second World War. Rwanda was horrible. Afghanistan and Iraq has been horrible, and a bunch of other places. What seems to be happening is these disasters, which are war-related, but could be natural disasters as well, they continue to happen due to political reasons, of course. So they come and go, and the question is, we who can't really affect politics in that way, what can we do? And so I'm just going to talk a bit about the company that I'm working for, Lingio. We have a mission to be social entrepreneurs and help others. And we're also extremely important for us to inspire others to help others. That makes sense. So that's a lot of reasons why I do these speaks or talks, to inspire you guys. Quickly about the app. What we realized is that refugees are coming to Sweden. They end up in like 2-3 years of lingo before they even get Swedish classes. And for me, being refugee myself, Swedish was the most important thing to get into society. The same thing for my parents. For me as a kid to get friends, but for my parents it was like getting a job and creating economical stability and providing for me in the future. So language is obviously super important. And with Lingio, we create an app where you have 300 different topics to learn from, 12,000 words, 2,000 phrases, and so on. But most importantly, we're supporting a lot of languages that immigrants speak. Currently Arabic, we're adding Farsi. My parents are working on it, by the way. They know how to translate, so they're actually good. And I think we're the only app in the world who kind of supports all of these languages and have this amount of content. And our focus is helping the people in Europe that are refugees. Well, we try to create a fun app, and at every moment we can make fun out of Trump, we'll do it. So in this case, it's celebrity animals, and there's a bunch of animals that look like Trump. This is the rabbit that looks like Trump. We're going to continue doing that. So we have a community where people can meet, and we created this for a lot of volunteer organizations we work with. The volunteers are online here. You can be online as well. And the refugees or whomever who wants to learn more about Swedish, it could be a Spanish person, anyone in the world, can reach out and you can talk about the language and help each other learning that language and culture. This is Gara, one of our team members from India. And then you can chat and so on. A fun feature is that you can chat with the translator bot, and whatever you write to the translator bot, it will translate it to you. So we had a few features that are important during the daily tasks that you have. Yeah, so finally, in conclusion, so this is our story together. So just realize we all migrated from Africa, as we're Africans. And evolution has really favored sharing and caring. So, and sharing is sharing of information, sharing of what you know, helped us survive, creating those stone tools. And caring is, you know, working in groups and kind of being together, handling the stress of the surroundings. Whether that's, you know, before it was crazy mammoths attacking us, but today it's are different things. It could be the war happening around the world. So if we together can help others, but also, I mean, and also importantly, inspire others that you know to help others, that would be awesome. So I hope we can start a new story around that. And with that said, I open a Q&A with me and my family here. So thanks.